The fighter is the frontline tank, and you'll want griffins and all sorts of creatures to dive right on your face to protect your pawns and allies in combat. If you're playing as a fighter, here's everything you need to know to be successful, from best skills, augments, equipment, vocation Maister, and more. Let's go. Let me know which vocation you would like me to do next. Now, the fighter is one of the basic vocations, so you don't have to unlock it. The fighter's role in combat is to play essentially like that tank role in melee range. You'll be keeping enemies' attention, having them attack you, and then using your unique vocation ability to block the damage that they're actually sending towards you, and keeping your shield up, as you're the only class that can use a shield. Now, you'll be also dishing out damage when you have those opportune moments, but protecting your allies is the key focus here. You'll play definitely a more defensive role than some of the other vocations, so it's something to think about if you are going to play as a fighter. Now, you will use like that R1 block all the time, right? It's a very important mechanic for the fighter. Blocking does consume stamina, and the higher damage attacks will consume more stamina when you block them, but it does prevent that damage from actually going to your health. You want to make sure as well that you're pointing your shield in the right direction. You know, you can actually change your shield direction by pressing like B or circle or whatever, and then you can actually change your character's direction so that you are facing the right way, because you can't really block if your shield's facing the wrong way. But just be careful as well of that shield and stamina management, because when you do have your shield up, your stamina won't refresh. It won't go down unless you take like a hit on the shield, but you do want to make sure you're refreshing it, because if you run out of stamina, you're essentially a sitting duck and you will absolutely take damage. But we can talk about how to keep yourself alive in a little bit. But let's get into the skills right now. Skill usage as a fighter isn't as often or as needed necessarily as some of the other vocations that are very skill dependent, right? Because you're going to be using that stamina for blocking a lot as well. So you'll actually be using a lot of light and heavy attacks pretty often, as they don't consume stamina, but there is some skills here that we will specifically call out. The first skill you get, like burst strike or blind strike, isn't bad. It's just like a powerful gap closer that you'll use pretty early on. Shield bash that turns into shield pommel is one that you absolutely should equip though. Now, what this does is it's a powerful blow with your shield, and you can knock enemies back, you can knock them off cliffs, what have you, if they're smaller enemies. It's actually really good here because it does strike damage rather than slash. So it's really effective against things like skeletons that, you know, are resistant to slash damage, so you can actually still deal damage to them via your shield. Shield summons or shield drum is the absolute must have for pawns if you've got fighters as pawns, but not necessarily too much if you are playing as a pawn, right? Because generally speaking, the AI does have a tendency to attack you a lot of the time, so you can get away without running shield drum if you want to run something else. But essentially what this does is it pulls targets towards you, right? Which is definitely valuable to have them focus on you. Definitely valuable to have on a pawn if you've got a pawn as your fighter and watching this video for that reason, but it's less important for you. You can probably tinker with something else if you did want to go that route. Airwood slash or cloudwood slash is super good for the fighter, as it's basically your only way to attack things in the air. Great for attacking, you know, your harpies and stuff that are flying around, but it's also really good to hit the larger enemies like in the face, because I mean, if you've got a sword, you can't really hit them in the face from hitting their toes, so it allows you to sort of jump up and hit those high targets, hit those weak points, which can be really valuable as well. It gives you that sort of flexibility. You should be grabbing all the core skills here. They really just advance your kit, like giving you access to different abilities. They don't necessarily like need to make options here. True deflect isn't bad, as it is like the only parry in the game if you want to parry and then follow up with counter attacks without consuming stamina, but really you should be grabbing all of these anyway. Augments is really important here. Now for augments, right, like you'll obviously grab all the fighter ones, like mental to increase your physical defense, provocation, so enemies more likely to attack you, and Thu to increase your carry weight, which is also great. You can actually grab other augments from some of the other vocations. You just have to level them up. For example, like Mage's Exaltation to increase your stamina recovery speed, or the Archer's Endurance to increase your max stamina. And a lot of the warrior augments are really good for the fighter as well, as there is a little bit of overlap in their overall kits. The fighter Vocation Maister you probably met just through the main story. He's Leonard in the Malv area that you probably would have come across very early. Now you will have to return to Malv at a later stage to actually unlock his Maister's teaching, which is the Righteous Fury fighter skill, which is actually a pretty good damage skill that you can use as a bit of a finisher on some of the harder enemies as well. Now to unlock this, you will need to complete some of the main story through Captain Brant in Venmouth. For me, this happened after I finished the Monsters Culling quest for him. I don't know if that's like a specific requirement. Let me know in the comments if it's a little different for you. But essentially what I did here is I completed that and then went to the Melve Oxcart area in Venmouth, and an NPC there grabbed my attention and gave me a quest called Oxcart Courier to return to Melve and give a letter to Leonard, and I went and did that. And then there was actually an attack at Melve at that specific time as well, which I don't think was necessarily related to the quest, but it did occur. So it could have been that, it could have been this quest. I just want to call it out, but I won't show too much just for like spoilers and stuff. But you know, essentially after you've done that, you'll be able to get the Righteous Fury skill book from him called Soldier's Code. You'll just need to then use it in your inventory, and then you've unlocked it for both you and your main pawn as well. And yeah, I don't know this very specific requirements for this event to occur, but that's how it occurred for me. It may be a little different for you. Definitely put that down in the comments if like something happened a little bit different for you. So the like specific event triggers we haven't really worked out yet. We're not, you know, further enough in the game's development to know yet. But gear wise, you always want to be on the hunt for better gear, either by buying it from vendors, finding it in the world. Make sure you are upgrading it, especially your armor to increase its overall defense, but also lower its weight slightly, as fighter gear is very heavy. An important detail for fighters as well is that you can use both maces and swords. I would recommend to use swords because they are like a slash weapon, and then because you've got your shield, which is a strike weapon, then you can do both slash and strike damage, so you're covering both of the damage types there, whereas a mace you're just doing strike, which isn't bad, but then you're not actually hitting slash if they are, you know, resistant to strike. So you've got the variation there. Armor is very important for the fighter and having a high defense, so make sure you are investing in your armor and upgrading it, and you know, actually purchasing any of the better armor equipment that you can get. And the same goes for your rings, right? Like the rings that improve your overall defenses, like increase your HP or reduce the amount of damage you take. Those things are definitely valuable to have as a fighter. A couple of tips here for playing as the fighter. Now, larger characters is actually a good idea for the fighter because you can carry more weight the larger you are, and because you're going to be wearing heavier armor, it just helps a little bit better. Like if you're a small fighter and wearing like super heavy armor, you're going to pick up stuff all the time that you're just going to get over encumbered so quickly. It does help with that. Plus, if you're larger, you're more resistant to being knocked down as well. Having a support mage with your fighter, say if you are playing as the fighter, you've got a support mage as your main pawn or a summon pawn, is really valuable to have to heal you, to remove any status effects that you get hit with, as you do want everything to be attacking you, so you will be taking damage, you will get knocked down, you'll have to get back up again, and having a pawn there can really help you if they're supporting you in that way. But the overall focus here for the fighter really is to use shield drum, have things attack you, and then fight them back. Right now, if you are fighting things that like skeletons and things that are resistant to slash, you've got your shield there to deal that extra damage in that way, and then you've got other, you know, your allies that are really going to be doing the brunt of the damage here. Like you can easily get away with having 3 ranged allies and just having you as the only melee character and just try and have everything focus fire you, and then having them just dump all that damage into you and around you, because you've got everything attacking you. It does make that a little bit easier, and it's probably the main focus of this playstyle, right? You can go a little bit more like offensive focus with some of the skills that we didn't mention here, but if you're going that route, you're probably better off than evolving into the warrior, as that's a bit more of the warrior's focus is on those more heavy hitting attacks that are a bit more damage focused, that you can do some of the support stuff. But the fighter really is that tanking specific vocation. You'll get a lot of success out of that if you want to go down that route and being that survivability brunt that's going to be on the front lines. But if you are picking a pawn that is using this, just make sure they have shield summoned or shield drum, like I mentioned earlier, so then things are actually attacking them and they've got the right augments equipped. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.